Hello, today we'll be talking about the Honda HR-V. This is a 2023-2024, so they look very identical. So it's basically been redesigned from the previous generation. It's slightly longer than the last generation, and it's about an inch wider. So it's very minor. You'd almost have to put them side by side to really be able to tell. Even though it is a subcompact, though, it has a lot of room on the insides, as you'll be able to tell in the moment when we look at the inside and the back space for the passengers. Quite amazing for its size. Now, again, I mean, it's got a very minimal grille in the front. Really, styling is quite, standard and boring, and there's not much to say about it. But then again, if you're looking for something that is small, that can come in both a two-wheel drive and an all-wheel drive, they've got different trims, so this might fit your budget. All the models here in Canada come with 17-inch wheels. Now, keep in mind that where you are, perhaps your market's slightly different. They may offer, perhaps a higher-end trim that has more features, but here it's rather limited. Now, this is the higher end trim, so that means is if you go and use your turn signals, this end actually has on the mirror turn signal light here in the mirrors. That is not available in the lower trims, at least in Canada. And this also came with leather seats, so you'll see that in a moment when we take a look at the inside. Now, apart from that, it does come in this higher end trim with the sunroof. Again, depending on the markets, I have to be careful there, because in some markets you may have no available sunroof, or you may, on the flip side, not be able to get this vehicle without a sunroof. So please check what is available locally. Now, this is an EXL, and it obviously the L is for leather and the EX is for the higher end trim, so it comes with both of those features. It also comes with the satellite radio. So the HR-V comes with a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. This is naturally aspired, which means there's no turbo, there's no gimmicks in here. It's really just a straightforward motor. And since the Honda Corporation produces so many of these motors, it's very reliable, and this should last you a long time. So overall, if you're looking for a vehicle that is budget friendly, that will last a long time, and that you can just keep, go to A to B. If it has enough cargo room for you, then this is definitely something you should be looking at. So again, there's nothing too exciting in the front end. There's a big gap here, which is a bit interesting. So on the back end here, you can tell it's very low. So from that point of view, it's easy to get in and out. And obviously, if you're going to load cargo and whatnot, there's no issues with getting stuff in and out. The only way you can really tell if it's an all-wheel drive or front-wheel drive is they put this little sticker here. There's a lot of pollen in the air, so I apologize. It's messing everything up. And of course the badge, there's HR-V, and there's really nothing else. So again, they've stuck to plain Jane. You got some lights here, reflectors, and you've got the lights here, and there's a bit of a wave here. So when you brake, and you'll see that if you watch our follow-up a night video, you'll get to see all the lights. So this little wave that is rather attractive when it is dark. Of course, I guess in the day as well, since you can't see the lights. So let's take a quick look at what we have from a cargo wise. So let's talk a little bit about cargo. So if you leave the seats here, you've got 24.4 cubic feet of space. Not huge. Of course, if you want to add to that, you can bring down typical 60-40 for most vehicles. Now you just push this down, and it's manual obviously, and you've got to lean over, and it gives you 55.1 cubic feet with the seats down. So again, it's adequate. I mean, if you've got smaller dogs or groceries and whatnot, that's not a problem. If you can afford to, if you don't have passengers in the back, then clearly it gives you a lot more room. Now, standard here, the back windows come tinted while I'm staring at those. And really, my big peeve with this right off the bat is the fact that the lights in the back here have no on-off. Which is a little strange to me, but that's just the way it's designed. And there is a 12-volt, 180-watt max cigarette lighter type of plug in the back. So here we are on the inside. As I've mentioned, we've got leather seats. They're quite comfortable. They're quite firm though, so be sure to test these out and sit on them When I first sat in these, to be honest with you, I thought they were too hard, too stiff. I then readjusted the seat and found a more comfortable position, and that made all the difference. I was able to sit in this car in traffic earlier, and turns out that it was, it was comfortable enough that you can do moderate to longer trips with it without too many issues. The biggest thing is the seats are manual, so that is a strange thing for a higher end. You would expect to have electric seats and lumbar support and all these things, especially with leather, but you do not. These are manual seats all around. So there's that. Now, from a disposition, how things are displayed, we've got the 9-inch because we've got the higher end trim here. If you get the lower end trims, you get a slightly smaller screen. So you're going from 7 to 9 inches, depending on the trim. And of course, you've got half of the display here. So you've got the speed on the right side, which is analog, and you have the left side, which is digital, which we'll see in a moment. And they've brought back some knobs. There is this strange honeycomb, I say strange, but if you've seen Civics or even CR-Vs, you've got the same thing. So this is a typical Honda. Right now, they've gone with this design. It feels like metal on here. It's probably aluminum. And to turn it off, you just bring it to the left, turn it on, and you can move it up and down. It's very functional. I don't hate it. I'm not terribly in love with it, but again, if you want something that is very functional, something that will be durable, and something that will be practical, you've got a lot of the knobs here for temperature control. And again, depending on the trim you either get dual zone or single zone. So let's go ahead, and just because it'll be easier to see some of the displays. So this is with the windows open. You can hear that it's quite, it's moderate sound-wise. I mean, we're not going anywhere, and right now, of course, it's talking to me in French, but that's all right. The point is the displays are nice and bright. You can see here, it shows you all the seats, who's sitting in them, who's wearing seat belts, and so forth. All of this is controlled through the left-hand side. So you've got volume, you can go and select, tracks and so forth. You could also select what you're seeing on the screen here by pushing up and down, or rather through this little scroller. Now, I'm not wearing a seat belt, and I think it's a little annoyed at that. Now, obviously, you've got the horn. You've got the heated steering wheel here on the bottom of the steering wheel. Now, on the right side, you're going to find things such as the cruise control. You've got the lane assist in this particular model. So again, make sure that if that's one of the features you want, that you get the proper trim, or else you will be definitely surprised. And so, as I said, here we have it all in Celsius, in case you're in the US and wondering what in the world you're seeing there and why I'd have it at 20. So this is in Celsius, and of course, if you go and change the display units, then you could jump into an English, and these would be in Fahrenheit. So you get on and off here. You got ventilation. You can put it on and higher and lower as usual, and you can sync it. You can click on auto. You've got your different modes. You've got the defrost, and you've got the air conditioning. So everything's pretty straightforward. Then you've got the two front heated seats. You've got the passenger and the driver here. Now, the entertainment system is a huge improvement. Well, huge, it depends how far back you've gone, obviously, for this, but it does work quite well. When you connect using, let's say, an iPhone, and you want to have the CarPlay, then you'll have this button here. I'll say CarPlay, you press on it. This higher trim actually comes with the navigation, so you've got navigation here, so that will actually do that. So if you don't have CarPlay, it will actually be able to connect through Bluetooth, and you'll have some functionality. If you've got CarPlay or Android, you can go and connect your phone and then have all of that functionality on top of it. Now, if we go into more what's happening with the car, I could say, okay, show me the last. So I did a combination. I did 142 kilometers, so let's say almost 100 miles with this, and what I got is my average was 7.6 liters per 100 kilometers. Now keep in mind, most of that was in heavy traffic where it was much higher. So I looked at it while I was in traffic at some point, and I was averaging 8.1. So now I'm down to 7.6. I haven't tried it yet, but I will go back and take a quick look when I do strictly highway. And if you're going a reasonable speed, of course, you should be able to go get much better than this, based on the fact that it is relatively small. I mean, it's still heavy because it is an SUV, but it is a 2.0 4-cylinder engine, and that should be quite adequate. Now, we'll see some of the driving later on, strictly on the inside. Now, you've got these cup holders that are in the front, and way in the front, as you can tell, there is a USB, and this is not even USB-C, this is strictly USB. And you've got two other ones which you may not see that are here on the side. So they've got this little gap here. I don't know if they were aiming to be similar to, I don't know, Toyota or so forth, but you've got two USBs up, one for the driver and one for the passenger here. Now, you also have, because this is a higher end trim, you've got the wireless charging here for your phone. Now, I'd like to point out something. If you were to use, I don't know, a can of Coca-Cola, and you put it there, not so bad, still reaches. Now, if you were to put, let's say, water, and you have your phone there, and you have two of these, well, all of a sudden it's very, you know, maybe not unreachable, but it gets awkward. It starts to interfere. So I would have preferred seeing these cup holders further in, like most cars. If you go into Toyotas and anything else, you would have these further back. And I guess I could see that maybe they don't want the drinks to interfere with the shifting or something like that. I'm not sure. Talking about the shifting, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You've got a bit of leather here. The whole rest is in leather. This is all soft, so that's nice. The steering wheel is nice as well. It's not particularly soft. Now, all the rest of the controls, you've got drive modes here, so you can set it to Eco, Normal, and I believe they also have one which is Snow. So you got Snow, Eco, or Normal, and usually would just leave it in Eco. There is also the parking brake there. On the side of the window, of course, as you would expect, is lock unlock, and there are the two automatic windows for the front and the back, and the back obviously are power windows as well. The mirrors are on top here, so they're quite easy to reach right where you'd expect it. The rest, there's no hidden buttons, there's no really anything that is out of sight or strangely placed, like in Toyota or Lexus, for example. They're notorious for that. We do have a few buttons completely here on the left, but those are things that you probably would not use a whole lot. There's the heater for the windshield, the wipers. Apart from that, we have a 6-speaker sound system in this higher trim, so it's got a really good sound. And there is also, just to note, there's nowhere to put your sunglasses or normal glasses in the front here, so what you're left with is to use the center console here, which has a relatively deep storage here, and unlike some of the EVs that I complained about in the past, you've got a glove compartment, so there's nothing being occupying that space otherwise. Other noteworthy, I'm going to say strangeness for the car, but on the sides there's a space in the door for cans, and if you were to place them in the sides, they actually have a bit of an angle to it, which I think is a little weird. But so you may not want to put a full can of soda or something without a lid on the side here in the door, because it has an angle, and if it's full it would literally just leak into the little compartment there in the door. So apart from that, we do have I believe that they've put a microphone here in the center, and last but not least, you get a sunroof on the higher trim, so that is nice. And of course you can open this one, because I know some cars they'll give you a glass roof that you can't open. This one does move, so you can open it and enjoy the warm summer air. So even at the higher trim, unlike some other brands, you don't have anything fancy for the mirrors, either the side mirrors or the center mirror. What you don't have, for example, is auto dimming. There's nothing like that. There's no digital anything. There's no compass, and it's just a manual, good old normal mirror. So that's what it comes with. Apart from that, you do have in the mirrors on the outside the sensing that will warn you if there is a car in your blind spot. So that is a nice feature to have. Of course, it's available in many models from many vendors. So again, it's becoming a commodity, and you're expecting that, I think, in most vehicles now, especially if you're going for the higher trims. Now, one of the things I really like is the fact that the back doors open not just a little bit, but quite a lot, so it's quite easy to get in and out of the vehicle. Let's go ahead and sit and look at all the space I have. And what's really interesting is I have a lot of headroom as well, so that's not a problem. There's storage here on the side, of course. In the back, there's no air, there's no USB. There's a little tiny recess here where you can put, I guess, your phone there, but that's about it. So there's no pocket on the driver's side, but there's a pocket on the passenger side, which is interesting. So again, this is a leather seat. Let's see if I could, if we can adjust them. Apparently not. So let's go ahead and see if we can open up the center, and that does not open either. So what you see is what you get, but it has lots of room. So again, it'll be quite comfortable. It has a decent angle, so it's a comfortable sitting arrangement in the back as well. And I could see how you could totally get 3 people in here. So it's quite comfortable in the center as well. Obviously it's harder, and there is a bit of a bump there in the center, but I mean, that is to be expected in these types of vehicles. So let's go ahead and start the car. Now the windows are open. It's got a decent sound. And let's go ahead and put this in drive and see how quickly it can accelerate. So it makes a racket when it accelerates. But that is to be expected considering the size of the engine and the weight of this vehicle. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and close the windows. It does have more pronounced sound than some of other cars. Clearly, you know, things like the RAV4 Prime was very quiet compared to this car. So it comes with 3 different modes. You've got the normal, the eco, and the snow. We'll leave it in normal for now, but it doesn't do much when you're driving. Can't feel the difference. The suspension is relatively stiff, but apart from that, the seats are on the firm side, so expect, if you like mushier seats, if you get this leather package, you will find that these are relatively I don't find them as comfortable as I'd like them to be, but I think for long travels this might be preferable to too soft, but that entirely depends on you, of course, when you're sitting down. The steering wheel is really nice. The dash is well laid out. I mean, there's nothing there that is really annoying or out of place. Everything's very easy to understand. Now, since this is a CVT, obviously there is no transitioning between gears since it's just a CVT. Apart from that, everything is very functional within reach in this car, so it makes it fun to drive. The entertainment system is very good. This higher end trim has 6 speakers, so you get a decent sound out of it. Of course, if you're an audiophile, you might want to, sit in one of these and listen to something just to make up your own mind, since I think we all have different ears, and I may not be as enamored with higher quality than some other people. So overall, I'd say this is a very decent ride for this size of a car. It has a decent turning radius. So this SUV has a lot going for it. Its compact size means that it's easier to park. So if you live in an urban area, for example, this is probably preferable to something larger. And as you can tell, when you accelerate, just to get up to speed. The engine does become noisy. So overall, the HRV is fun to drive. I mean, it's a little bit slow, and expect 9.1 seconds from 0 to 60 or 0 to 100, depending if you're in miles per hour or kilometers. So you're not going to win any races with this thing. But then again, if you're going grocery shopping, you're moving around town, carrying the kids around and so forth, this is all you really need. It has enough acceleration that it's nimble enough in traffic, weaving and so forth if you need to. Apart from that, from a consumption point of view, we're looking at 26 to 32 miles per gallon, so 26 obviously being in the city and 32 being on the highway. In liters per 100 kilometers, we tested it and we drove both in traffic and on the highway. The best I got, I think, was 7.1 liters per 100 kilometers, and the worst I got in really heavy traffic was 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers. So it's perfectly acceptable. I mean, it is small looking, so you'd expect that maybe you'd get more than that. But however, considering that it's got no turbo and so forth, I think it's perfectly acceptable. I'm Bob Pellerin, CTOBOB. Please leave some comments below. I love reading those, and let me know what you think about the Honda HRV. And of course, you can reach us at www.ctobob.com. Thanks so much for watching.